Hello, YouTube. I'm just waiting for TikTok to turn up now. My main audience is on TikTok. That's where my big audience is. So I'm just waiting for them to turn up. Hello, Shonda. Never seen that before. Shonda. Christy. Seen that before. Jasmine. Seen that before. Kit. Hi, Kit. You're regular. Oh, I was just had a really bad joke. So where's your brother Cat? Stupid. Anyway, I find myself funny. A little bit punchy. I had a busy day. So, okay. I'm wondering where you are from and how old your kids are. So, where are you from and how old are your kiddos? I'm in Vancouver and my kids are 33 and 28 and I've got my first grandchild due soon. Michigan, 4 and 8 months. Oh, that's a nice split. So you got time between. Weren't you here last night? 4 and 8 months? You were here last night, weren't you? If so, welcome back. Florida. How old are your kids? Calgary, 14 months and baby due in February. Oh, you're going to be busy. You've got a toddler and a newborn. It's a short period, so just yeah. So I didn't mean to chuckle, but yeah, that's a busy time. Depends. Some toddlers are really calm. Alabama, 21 months and 4 months. Oh, you're right in that mix of that too. Yeah, a toddler and a newborn. What a lot of people say is really nice is you've got your kids close in age, and that toddler and newborn stage, it's really short anyway. So it's really crazy in that time, but it's pretty short. Dallas, Texas. I've missed you. Hi, Sassy. Emma, where were you? I've been here. I'm here every day. I just have these 2 regularly scheduled ones. It's a Tuesday night at 7 my time, which is California, Vancouver time, and then Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Naples, Florida. You were just here last night too, weren't you? Busy working and traveling. Oh, nice. Traveling with work, probably. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. I've got one on YouTube right now. So, oh, by the way, my name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on the link above, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. Anyway, I just got a message. Hi, I'm Donna from North Carolina. I am an intensive in-home counselor with kiddos from 7 to 16 years. Kiddos from 7 to 16 years. So how many kids do you have in between there, I wonder? I think the largest family I ever worked with was 8 kids. And it was just a system. We just had to get systems going. Okay. Yes, it can sure get crazy. Yeah, with a toddler and a newborn for sure. Okay, so parenting questions. Just waiting for those. See, I'm wearing a black top so I can read your white letters there. Because I kept wearing white and I couldn't see the letters. Couldn't see your words. It's funny. Okay, so what are your parenting questions? My kids aren't listening without me having to repeat myself. Yeah, I don't repeat myself. I just say something once, and then if they don't hear, I take action. So if I say we're going to be leaving in about 5 minutes, if they're not, I don't say, well, come on, we're going. I just take action. I grab their shoes and I lead them out the door in their bare feet or stocking feet. So yeah, try not to repeat yourself. But it's that's one of those things that it's kind of hard to do if you're not a leader first. So work on your leadership skills. My behavior board's completely free. It's in the link above, and it starts to set you up as a leader. And do not put something like this. You listen the first time. You never put anything that broad. It has to be you just sort of shrink it down into something really small, like dirty clothes go in the laundry hamper or something like that, or no hitting. But you don't put anything big like listen to me, because that's ridiculous. It's like saying be respectful. It's too broad. So anyway, check out that behavior board. I also have a course on how to get respect in 5 weeks. That's my Bratbusters boot camp. And then coaching is the next level up. A lot of people have doubled up with that. They bought the course and then they wanted me to help them along with it. So most people don't. But a lot of people have done that because they have, stuff they just have extra questions and they want help. I'm surprised at that, but they're doing really well. I tried talking and playing and it's not working. But talking and playing, I don't know what you mean by that. I tried talking and playing and it's not working. Do you have oh, my kids aren't listening without me having to repeat myself. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how old they are. How old are your kids? It's Jeannie? I think that would be Jeannie, wouldn't it? My kids aren't listening without me having to repeat myself. I try talking and playing. It's not working. What about the consequences? Like, kids don't learn through talking, or they learn through consequences. We all do. If we don't pay our mortgage, we get foreclosed on. If we don't pay our rent, we get kicked out. If we don't pay for whatever, if we don't pay for our groceries as we're leaving the store, we're going to go to jail. I mean, life's about consequences. You do certain things because you know that you have to. And that's what you want to teach your kids. So they learn through consequences. That's how they learn. So yeah, work on my behavior board. If you want my help with that, you can hire me, or my course is in there too. So everything's together. It's all up there. Okay, my kid does a high-pitched sound, whiny constantly. I can take anything. Nails on a chalkboard, music to my ears compared to whining. I can't handle whining. Anyway, check out, I just did a video 10 minutes ago, and it's on how to stop kids from whining. So you can check that out after. Tips on a 2-year-old who tells me no over and over and argues with me. Well, so? Like, you're still in charge. Like, if they say, no, I'm not going to eat my food, well, then you hand feed them. Or no, I'm not getting in the car. You pick them up and put them in the car. You can still take charge with a 2-year-old quite easily. So yeah, who cares if they say no? Just make it happen anyway. So yeah. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. I read this out every night, but it's good to repeat because it's just, toddlers are toddlers, right? Okay, just a sec. Why is that? Okay. Number 1, 5 top tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is connect with them, but in their world. You don't connect with a 3-year-old at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. That they just start looking at you different, like that you've entered their world. Number 4 is when you're disciplining your children, it's all actions. It's not about these mini therapy sessions discussing all their big feelings. They are not listening to you. They're watching you. It's actions speak louder than words. They're about consistent corrective actions, and they learn through repetition. They don't learn the first time, might be the 50th time. The last one is stop trying to figure them out. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around up in there. They're just forming. It's not so much that they're crazy. They are, but that's not really what it's about. They just haven't developed sanity yet. They're not there yet. They're only 2 years old, let's say, and they've only been in the world for 2 years. And that first year, they were a potato laying on a mattress. I mean, how much can they really understand about the world? So yeah, don't try and figure them out. Yeah, now you said a 2-year-old that argues with you. You're part of it? You're arguing with a 2-year-old? You can't argue with one side just coming at you. So yeah, you're getting caught up in it. You're giving them too much power. So yeah. My top 5 tips might help. Do you have videos for 3-year-old that's hitting at school? I do have a course on kids who hit. And by the way, if they hit at school, it's because you're not a leader at home. When you're a leader at home, they just don't tend to do stuff like that. They just don't, unless there's something going on, unless they're getting hit first or something, they might hit back. But unless there's something unusual going on at school. But if you're a leader at home, set yourself up as a leader. You can start with my behavior board or buy my course, the leadership course that's the boot camp, or you can hire me for coaching. It sets you up as a leader. And then they don't act out. They carry your leadership umbrella everywhere they go. When they respect you, they tend to respect everybody. It's just the way they are. So work on your leadership skills. Okay, good question. No one ever asked me this, which I find interesting. In coaching, they do. How often should I switch out toys for a 2- and a 3-year-old? That's the toy rotation system. I would say once a week, switch it out. But you never put away the big stuff. You never put away like the big blocks, or I never put away books. I never put away a favorite plushie or anything that they love. Nothing soothing and comforting. You never put that stuff away. But yeah, maybe once a week. My kids, I only did it maybe a few times a year. They just tended to play with the big stuff. It's all that little stuff they don't tend to play with a lot anyway. And plus, I only like them to have what I call creative toys. It's they had to make something out of something. So I didn't just want them to have like a Furby or something that they just sit and look at while it talks to them. I just don't understand that kind of stuff. I wanted them to have something that they actually had to draw or make or form or build or something. So it kind of kept them really interested. Yeah, once a week maybe. Okay, why a child, well, I need to know the age. Oh, you did, 2 years old. Why a child repeats the same word for everything, but knows what they want. Are they nervous? I wouldn't call it nervous. I don't quite know what you mean. They repeat the same, so they want something, but they know the different word. I don't quite know what you mean. Maybe you could elaborate on that. Thank you for the gifter badge. I don't really know what that stuff means, but I know it's appreciation, so thank you. In Canada, there's no, like you don't make any money on here in Canada. So people have often said they sent me gifts and that, and I didn't quite know what that meant. But if you look, I have a whole select. I went through and I looked through it, and it's really nice to see all that appreciation. Yeah, but they do collect up. I found it one day. I didn't know what all that stuff meant, but I found it one day. Okay, I've got a little something to tell you about this because this one kind of bothered me. My 3-year-old had some special education kids in his class with bad behaviors, and he's picking those up. What to do? It's a tough situation to be in, and I'll tell you why that's a little bit of an annoyance with me. My kids were really well behaved, and they just were polite kids. So they were always put between the difficult kids. Always. They were always sandwiched between the difficult kids. Like it was like, because it calmed, you know what I mean? Like, and I always thought that was kind of unfair. Because why should my kids have to sit beside these unruly kids all the time just because they're polite? It was like they were being punished for being polite. So I don't know what to tell you about that. It's kind of frustrating, but I never once complained about it because I don't tell teachers how to run their job. You know, they're doing the best they can. If they've got 30 kids in a class, I respect teachers. If they got 30 kids in class, they do what they got to do to manage, right? And if putting the easy, polite kids between the difficult, rude ones helps them out, it was just kind of frustrating for me because I always felt kind of bad for my kids. I was like, oh, where did you get seated this year? And, sure enough, I knew all the kids, so I knew the ones that they were being seated beside. Kind of frustrating. So, yeah, because they were unruly and they would often sort of grab things off my kids and, so, but it's part of it. I never tell a teacher how to run a classroom. Never. I just have so much respect for teachers. They're doing the best they can. What's up with the why stage they go through? Yeah, they go through that. I used to tell my kids as they got older, I said, I don't know. Let's go look it up together. Do you want to go to the library? We can go look it up together. They'd sometimes say yes, usually no. So I just said, I don't know. Because they always ask you stuff you don't know anyway. Why is the sky black at night? Something to do with the sun and what's the sun? Oh, geez. So yeah, I would offer that we go and figure it out together. That's how I managed it. Oh yeah. 2.5-year-olds having a lot of tantrums lately and have a newborn. Could it be jealousy? Yeah, it's just a stage they go through. Yeah. Could you imagine, let's say your husband brought home a new wife and you got to share. It's a big ask for a 2-year-old to share his parents, his home, everything. So yeah, it's a stage. It's an adjustment period. You can't prepare them for that. People say, how do I prepare my toddler for the newborn? How could you do that? How could you possibly prepare them for that? They just can't understand it. They'll get used to it. It'll become their norm. They have short little memories at that stage. They'll forget what it was like to have their parents all to themselves. How can you deal with a clingy 2-year-old? I think I just did a video on that. I'm not sure about that. I can't remember. I think because I did a few videos and I tossed a couple of them. I didn't like them. So I didn't like the way I did it. I think I did talk about that. Anyway, a clingy kid. You just sort of go, oh, okay, well, let's go do that. You're always trying to divert their attention to doing something else. You don't want to say push them away or anything. You just say, oh, okay, well, I'm busy doing this. And then but you want to sort of get them started on something. Here, let's go do some drawing. And then you just back away quietly. It's a stage. Mad respect for teachers. Oh, yes. I've spent many, many hours in the back of the classroom with the challenging kids. And I saw teachers do things I thought wasn't great, but I thought in their job, I'd probably be jumping out the window. So I never, ever judged a teacher. I thought, wow, what a job. What a job. So yeah, I have the utmost respect for teachers. It's a tough job. They're looking after your kids. And if you don't send well-behaved kids to school, that's their biggest challenge, by the way. They love teaching academics. They just don't get to do as much of that as they'd like to because they're so busy dealing with behavior. Yeah, it's tough. That's why they're quitting, right? There's a teacher shortage nowadays. They like teaching, but they don't like having to always deal with bad behavior. And their hands are tied because if they even look at the kids the wrong way, the parents come in and sue them, They've got no leverage, nothing they can do to handle the kids. And then if the kids act out, they get blamed for it. The parents blame them. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Okay. My 3-year-old says, die, mommy, whenever he doesn't get his way. Should I ignore it? I want to say yes, but I probably wouldn't ignore that because it's such a, yucky thing to say. I would say, do not say, or I would say he's old enough to go on that behavior board. I would say no bad words. And I would say that, like, when you say die, mommy, that's bad. So then there's a consequence every time he says it. I would address that one. Just because I don't like it. It's such an awful one. If they just say, you hate me, I hate you, all that, I ignore all that stuff. Say, whatever. Just they only do that because they're not getting their own way, right? But that one, I don't like that one. I would pull that one up. I would put it on the behavior board. The behavior board's free. It's up above in the link. My 4-year-old initial reaction to anything is scream instead of speak. How do I fix it? Anything good or bad? Like, what do you mean? Give me an example. Is it only bad stuff he doesn't like, or is it good stuff too? Okay. Okay. My son, I guess we'll say son. My son just turned 3 years old, does not listen these days. I've started shouting and I feel bad. Please help. Okay. When they turn 3 and they often find their power. If you're not a leader, they pick up on it when they're toddlers that you're a leader. They do. They pick up on it. They don't always follow along because they're toddlers, right? They're crazy. But by the time they're 3, if they know you're a leader, that's when life gets really easy. If you're not a leader, that's when the poop hits the fan because they go like this. They're able to stop and think and reason, and they'll go like this. Wait a minute, there's no leader here. I think I'll do it. So they find their power. So work on your leadership skills. Remember, we're never fixing kids here. We're fixing and teaching parents. So when you're a leader, everything falls into place. They respect you. They respect themselves. Their self-esteem rises. It's great. It's great. So work on your leadership skills. That just says your 3-year-old found his power. Because you didn't have it. You didn't have the leadership role cemented. So the screamers, this like if she sees something she doesn't like. Okay, if it's that bad, just at 4 years old, they shouldn't be doing that. So they're old enough to understand that. I would say, I'll tell you something. If you don't like something, if you scream, there's going to be a consequence from now on. Okay, so then every time she screams, there's a consequence. Look on the behavior board, it explains how to do that. The rule is no screaming. Just put no screaming. It's not in the attitude department if she's 4 years old and she just does that to get attention or something, I'm assuming. So put down no screaming, and then you might want to put a little bit of extra in there, like no screaming when you see this or when you see that. I don't know. Be kind of more specific. I don't know. That's one of those ones in coaching. I'd ask a lot of questions before I'd have any really great answer. I'm not thrilled with the answer I gave you, but I would have to assess the situation first. I don't know what kind of parent you are. When did she start it? How often does she do it? How loud is it? Does she do it in front of other people? Does she do it at school? So that's, yeah, if you want my help, you'd have to hire me. Yeah. Tips on elementary school peers. Son is affected by bullies, takes it to heart. Okay, I was never bullied. My kids were never bullied because this is how you handle bullies. I just did this instinctively and I taught my kids to do this. So there's bullying doesn't come up a lot lately, which is interesting. I guess because most people on TikTok have younger kids, but I should do more videos on bullying. I've done a lot of work on bullying in the past. Okay, so this is what you do with a. I'll tell you what I did. I was in grade 2, and I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of class. I'd never been in the hallway when it was empty before. It was a real, I'd go to the bathroom on my way back. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. It's an empty hallway. I got the whole school to myself. Anyway, I was going down the hallway, and sure enough, coming out of the principal's office was the school bully. He was in grade 5, and I was in grade 2. And I'd never come up against him before because we never ran into each other before. Well, he saw me, alone in the hallway, this little grade 2-year-old kid. And he saw me, and you could just see he's licking his chops. He's like, oh, I'm going to go after her. And I was like, "Ugh." So, because I had to go past him, I couldn't avoid him. So anyway, he comes right up in my face, and my last name was Hanky, my maiden name. And he says, Hanky Panky. And I said, I prefer Snot Rag and Boogie Bundle. Oh, well, got to get back to class. And he never came near me again. So what I taught my kids to do is you agree with the bully. Like if they say, gee, you're stupid. Yeah, it runs in the family. We're all stupid. Ha ha. Anyway, what are you having for lunch? You agree with them, try and use humor, and then you divert. You change the subject. It gives them an out. If you don't do that, they'll come at you again. So yeah, geez, you got a big nose. Yeah, the whole family does. You should see the dog. Huge schnoz. Like, try and make fun of it. I know it's hard to do, but I'll tell you in a second how you do this with your kids. And then you say, oh, what do you got for lunch? Or what PlayStation games do you like? And it works because bullies only go after who they can affect. Anyway, the way that you teach this to your children, you don't just tell them how to do this. You role play it. You play the bully, then you play them, and you go back and forth and have fun with it. And never tease about something that they've been teased about. You make up something ridiculous, put a silly hat on their head, and that's what you're going to use as an example to tease. You never tease, even though like you're just role playing. You never take anything that's real that's upsetting to them and tease and role play with that. Okay, so just put like a clown nose on them, a red nose or something, and tease about their red nose. So you see, that's how you deal with bullies. I was never bullied, and my kids were never bullied. So yeah, agree with them and then change the subject. Try to use humor. But kids, you can talk to kids about what to do, but until they've done it, like role playing at home with you, it's harder to do. Because when they're up against a bully, they're just going to freeze. But if they've already acted it out with you, it comes out a lot easier. It just does. They've already done it. So it just comes out easier. Humor, yeah, with kindness. Yeah, I don't know how I came up with that as a kid. I was always pretty sure of myself as a kid. And yeah, I just came up with that because I had a very funny family. So humor was just in the family. But yeah, I don't know how I came up with that. Lucky, no one ever came near me. Just wasn't the victim type at all. Okay, I'm on the right path. I feel so much better hearing it from you. Excellent. What are some examples of consequences for 3-year-old? I think I have some of those in the behavior board, but it's usually an act of kindness. So if they hit their little brother or sister, that little brother or sister gets to play with their favorite toy for 10 minutes. That's an act of kindness. You always start with the positive action or act of kindness. Or they have to do a chore, help you do a chore. They can help you unload the dishwasher. They can help you wash the dishes. They can help you do laundry. It's usually something like that. Or they can just wash one window. A lot of parents say, but they love helping out. That's fine. It's still doing an act of kindness, okay? And then if they won't do that, or if that's difficult and they have a fit and they won't do it, say, fine, then 24-hour media blackout. Or there's no iPad tonight, or there's no TV tonight, or whatever. So then you take something away. So you start with a positive action. If they won't do the positive action, then you do the negative deprivation. You take something away. That's the easy one. You don't start with that. Yeah. Sometimes you do, but generally, no. You always try and do the positive action first. I also got a bit of a reputation in school as being the victim defender. I was pretty out of mouth on me. I was pretty sure of myself. And whenever I'd see, there was this one little girl that got picked on all the time. She was that real mousy, tiny, shy, cried easily. She got bullied all the time. She was, I think, a year younger than me, so I wasn't around her a lot. But anyway, I remember one time in the school ground, the bully was coming after her like bad. And I went over, I think I was in grade 4 or 5. And I went over there and the bully saw me coming. And anyway, so I just said to this little girl, rather than say anything to the bully, I invited her to play with us. So she came over and played with us. And the bully didn't come near her for the rest of that day. I don't know what happened after that. But that's something too that's really nice to teach your kids to do, is to go over and befriend the victim. There's no point saying anything to the bully, but I hate bullies. Like, I hate seeing kids getting picked on. That really bothered me, seeing that little girl getting picked on, even though she wasn't much smaller than me. But it really bothers me. I don't like that. Funny thing is, a lot of kids I've worked with were bullies. When I'm working with them, I don't mind them. But when I was a kid, yeah, I didn't like them. They always picked on the weak ones. I just thought that was so cowardly. Okay, my son is 6. He defies everything. I mean, everything I ask of him. So frustrating. Few reasons for that. Well, one, you're not a leader, obviously. Set yourself up as a leader. That won't happen. Look at my Bratbusters boot camp. That's the course in the link above. Anyway, also, are you a right fighter? Right fighters tend to raise kids who are often very stubborn and defy. Like, are you always right? Do you ever admit you're wrong? Are you vulnerable? Do you show weakness? Which is nothing. You should be showing you're human too. So that could be part of it. Maybe he's just doesn't want to admit to anything. So I don't know. It could be a million different things, though. I don't really know. Anyway, set yourself up as a leader and see how that goes. That course is in the link above. Yeah. Any advice on teenager 14 not wanting to go to school? It's almost a daily struggle. You have to find out what's going on. Yeah, if you want to hire me, that's probably 5 sessions. Teenagers are almost always 5 sessions. They're my favorite age. And but yeah, you have to figure out what's going on. There's ways of getting information out of them. If they're not always going to tell you everything, but yeah, you got to figure out what's going on, try and work around it. And yeah, you got to do some detective work there. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yes, I admit my faults. Good for you. We all got them. Why not talk about them? I love self-deprecating humor. I'll tell you something funny. I was up talking to a school one time, and I used to do a lot more public speaking in that. And so about 600 parents were there. And someone said, and I use humor when I'm talking to groups too, and I have to interact. I hate just speeches. I'm lousy at them. But I love interacting with an audience. Anyway, so I was interacting with the audience, and they said something. And I was just on a roll. I was funny, and I was always making fun of myself. It's what I do. I'm self-deprecating. So anyway, I said, yeah, I love self-deprecating humor, but I didn't say the word deprecating. I mixed it up with another word. Just think, what does it rhyme with? And the whole audience went completely silent. I had no idea what I'd said. Yeah, I'm really good at self-deprecating humor. It's not what I said, though. Anyway, thank God they didn't have any like videos. That was before cameras were really in, like at the time, on the phones. So thank God no one had that. Or actually, that would have been funny. I would have loved that. But yeah, gotta laugh at yourself. That's like if a kid, an older kid especially, if they do something really stupid, this would be what I would say. Oh, well, that was stupid. Wait to hear what I did when I was your age. You want to be relatable. You never want to set yourself up as being perfect and wonderful. Set yourself up as being human, but also be a good leader. Leaders are not perfect. Leaders are just really good as mentors and bringing out the best in kids. And you want them to like themselves when they're with you. You want them to feel good about themselves when they're with you. You want them to have pride in themselves when they're with you. Their self-esteem should be skyrocketing. When you're a leader, they have really high self-esteem. When you're not a leader, they tend to not have very good self-esteem. That's how bad they need a leader. They desperately need, crave, and want leadership. If you're not a good leader for your kids, they're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. They're going to be susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. If you're a leader, they're not at all, because they're going to come and tell you everything. It just builds a strength in them, a confidence in them. You're a safe place to land right through the teen years. It's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to do for your kids, is set yourself up as a leader. And leadership is not about discipline. It's a small part of it. It's more about connecting and bonding with your kids and really understanding them. Yeah, the Kardashians. Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with them, but you get what I'm saying. See, I'm trying to be funny. Okay. Okay. 3.5-year-old food struggles. Well, they almost sound like different things. Always hitting and running into us. Extreme meltdowns. What am I doing wrong? Then someone said about the food. I don't discuss that stuff because I'm not a doctor, so I don't know about that. Food struggles. But what does that have to do with the hitting? Like, how do they connect up? So you're at the dinner table, she gets up and hits you and has a meltdown. I don't quite understand what you mean by that. So maybe you could let me know. What, or is it mealtime? No does. Okay, well, what's going on there, Ashley? I'm curious. Like, is it mealtime that she's having these fits or all the time? And what are the food struggles? So anyway, if you want to elaborate on that. Star sign are you? Libra. I got a birthday coming up in a couple days. I'll be 63. Wow, how old am I? Okay. Toddlers who run. There are 4 things that kids are born to do, or they'll never do them. They'll either do them or they won't. One is running. The other one is climbing. The other one is aggressiveness, where they hit people. And the other one is tantrums. They're either going to do those things or they're not. Running is one. It's actually quite an easy one to deal with. Just get a harness on them. And then as soon as they start to run, clip them in. And for the rest of that outing, you keep them clipped into that leash. And you say, you do not run from me. Okay? They will eventually learn. It's about safety, life and death. You clip them into a car seat. Why wouldn't you clip them in when you're out in the street? So yeah, make them earn their freedom. How do I teach my toddler that running from me to do anything is not a game? Like change. Oh, so you're at home too and it happens. You can't teach them that. Just make sure you follow through. I would grab them before they know what's going to happen, though. I like to sort of outsmart them. So yeah, you're just walking past like this. Next thing you know, mom's picked them up and I'm going to go put a diaper on them. So yeah, maybe they see you coming. You give them too much warning. I'd be a little bit more sly about that. Happy early birthday. Yeah, you don't really celebrate birthdays as much when you get old. I like being in my 60s. I hated my 50s. No, I didn't hate my 50s. I hated turning 50. I felt really old. I love my 60s, though. Go figure. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting senile. That's why. Who knows? Okay. Sometimes I can find connection with him and persevere, but lose it. Issues keep recurring separately, major the hitting it. Okay, you might want to hire me. There's a few things going on there. I'm kind of guessing at a couple things, but I don't want to answer you because I'm not sure. But yeah, you might want to check into coaching. Anyway. Yeah. As a leader, there's the old-fashioned style of parenting was the old-fashioned authority style of parenting. My way or the highway, I'm in charge, you do what I say. Not a bad way to parent in that they came out pretty good. They came out fine at the end of it. The new style is the pleaser parent. That is a disaster. That you become a dish rag, they wipe their feet on you. They treat you like a doormat. They never respect you, and they grow up to be self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. I mean, you're doing them no favor by trying to roll out the red carpet and make everything easy for them. The participation awards are a really good example of that. What garbage is that? How stupid is that? Get an award just for turning up. Sometimes even moms have gone in and complained that they want a participation award, even though their kid didn't turn up. They still want to like, how ridiculous is that? No wonder why these kids are a mess. Anyway, I'm exaggerating. They're not all like that, obviously, but the pleaser parent style is a total disaster. But the old-fashioned authority, I don't do either of those. I'm a leader. I want them to, my whole goal is to make them like themselves. When they like themselves, they have high self-esteem and they respect you and themselves and everybody else. They just feel proud of themselves. They make good choices. I don't want obedient little soldiers. I want kids who think for themselves and they make good choices. That's why my kids were self-disciplining. I never had to discipline them. By the time they were 3.5, they were self-disciplining. They made good choices because I guided them along the way. I guided them along how to do that. So right through the teen years. And you want them to tell you everything. You want to be a safe place to land. And they will. When you get good at listening, they'll tell you everything. 13-month-old wants to constantly be picked up. Yeah, that's really common. My daughter was Velcro. She wanted me to pick her up all the time. I'll tell you kind of a cute story about that. I sewed all their clothes. I made all their clothes. And I had a separate sewing room. And I put up a gate when my son was little, and he would bring all of his toys by the gate. And I was like 2 feet away from that gate, by the way. So I was right there, but I didn't want him in the room with all the pins and everything. So anyway, he'd be right there playing happily. My daughter came along 5 years later, same setup. I put the gate across. She would just sit there holding on. She never cried. She, easiest little kid. She never cried, but she was Velcro. She was a real mummy's girl, Velcro. She sat there holding on to the gate just with her chin quivering. Like she just wanted to be on the other side of the gate with me. She was like Velcro. So what I did was I did end up getting rid of the gate, and she was such an easy little kid, and I just brought her in, put the toys at my feet, and she always had to be touching me. So, but I made sure she had stuff to do, and I'd show her, okay, you can do this and this and that. So you sort of get them started playing, and then you go back to what you were doing. Okay, and they eventually will get more into their own little world, but 13 months is still a baby. So your expectations are, maybe not realistic, and that they're going to go through that clingy stage. My son never did. He was more independent, but my daughter was very clingy. Now, my 2-year-old whines and fussing very often. I can't seem to figure out why. Whines and fusses very often. I don't know why. I'd have to ask a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to read out, maybe this will help, my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Okay, might help. I don't know, because I don't know what's going on there. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is get a toy rotation system going so they're never bored. I have videos on that. Number 3 is enter their world to connect with them. You don't connect with a 3-year-old at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number 4 is when you're disciplining, it's all about consistent corrective actions. Don't do the mini therapy sessions discussing all their big feelings, big emotions. It's just garbage. That's there to feed the mom, not the kids. Has nothing to do with them. Anyway, number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. So I don't know what's going on with your 2-year-old, but maybe there's too much going on. Maybe maybe they've got too much clutter, too many toys around. It overwhelms them, and they can't focus on anything. That's why I did a toy rotation system with my kids. They didn't have very many toys out. I put maybe 95% of their toys away, and they only had a few toys out at any given time. And they would focus and play on those things, play with those things. And they were all creative toys. I don't like stuff where they just sit and look at a Furby talking to them. I just don't get it. I would rather them have like blocks and stuff they have to build. So yeah, maybe they're just bored, potentially. I don't know. And too much stuff does lead to boredom. It's overwhelming. Maybe too many choices, yeah. How often do you rotate the toys? Someone else asked that tonight. Maybe once a week. I did that with my kids a few times a year. They just didn't, because all the big stuff was always out. All the blocks, the Lego, the Duplo, whatever, that stuff was always left out. But they had to, I sort of ran my house like a classroom. Like when they got a big thing out, the other things were not allowed to come out. So if they decided they were going to play with blocks or Lego, that was out for the whole week. And they'd set up, the whole living room could be set up with it. But as soon as they went on to the train set or something else, all the other stuff had to be put away. So only one big thing out at once. I sort of ran it like a classroom. That's how my kids assimilated into school so easily, because I kind of ran it like, okay, this activity is happening. Now we're going to pack up and do another one. So yeah. Okay. 2-year-old keeps climbing off the back of the couch. Pick him up and move him. How do I get him to listen? Yeah, you're just going to have to go through that. There's not much you can do about that, to be honest, because you can't put the couch away. Those are the climbers, and I say, if they do use chairs and pulls chairs around to climb on top of, you put bells on them, but you can't put a bell on the couch, right? You're right there. But yeah, just keep pulling them down and saying no. And then divert their attention, like try and do something else. So you don't just show them what not to do, you show them what to do. It's tricky. Climbers are tricky. They're the one that I think is the hardest. Of the four things that toddlers are either going to do or they're not, I think climbing's the worst because it's the most dangerous. I always tell this story about I had a client who had an 18-month-old she couldn't find in the house, could not find this child, was just about to call the police. And then she heard giggling, looked up, this kid was on top of the fridge. And she'd used her little toes to get up in the drawers, then on the counter, then the bread machine, and then the fridge. Climbers are scary. Yeah, my son's a climber and 9 months old, climbs everything. Yeah, they just do or they don't. But then they might be gymnasts or really good athletes down the road. All those things can kind of turn into a real positive down the road. But when they're little, it's a pain in the butt. Repetition, distraction, redirection. Yeah. Oh, I was a stay-at-home mom and I just started working again and my 2-year-old's being mean to me now. Any tips? It's just a stage. They'll get over it. They'll learn. They'll end up getting their own little world going at daycare or wherever they are. So yeah, they'll get their own little social world going. Once they've adjusted, it'll be fine. It's just a stage. I don't understand this. Whenever I get onto my 2-year-old, he changes the subject. What do you mean onto him? You mean when you're disciplining him? And how does he change it? How does a 2-year-old change the subject? Like, what's his vocabulary? Well, you know what I was thinking? Like, I'm just wondering how that works because he's only 2. Now, 3-year-old loves to throw away toys as playing. Throw away toys. You mean in the garbage? Oh, I would put them all away and just pull out 1 or 2. Yeah, I would just pack them all up and say, well, because 3 years old, I don't know why they'd be doing that at 3. I would put on the behavior board. I would say no throwing toys. You mean in the garbage? I would say no throwing toys in the garbage, and there's a consequence. But I would put like 95% of his toys away. He obviously doesn't value them. So, kids only tend to play with a few certain toys really well anyway. I did a lot of art stuff. Like I loved art stuff with my kids. I made Play-Doh and we did a lot of stuff like that. So really creative stuff. They tend to play for hours when you do stuff like that. So I've got a question on YouTube here. 4-year-old daughter screams about everything. Did I already answer that on TikTok? Do your courses help with really defined kiddos with anger issues? Yeah, that's probably what I've made the courses for. So yeah, they do. And I never worked with an easy kid. My kids were easy. I got respect. They were kind of on the easy side anyway, but I got respect when they were tiny and sailed right through the teen years. But I never worked with an easy kid, not once. I've worked with hundreds of kids. And not once did anyone ever say to me, here's an easy one, Lisa. They always went like this, good luck with this one. I loved it. It was fun. How do you handle the endless whys? I answered that one earlier too, but I know people come and go. When they do why, but why, but why, I would say, I don't know. Do you want to go to the library and we'll look it up together? So that's what I used to say to my kids. Now you can just go to the internet, but I would actually go the extra mile. Do you want to go to the library and look it up together? Or you can look online, I guess. But like my kids would usually say no. It kind of shut them up. Because how many times can you say, I don't know. But then I would say, do you want to go to the library? Sometimes they'd want to go. It's impossible to go to a store with my 2-year-old. Any tips? Yeah, they have to be restrained. I never let a 2-year-old loose in a store. They were, especially grocery shopping. They always sat in that cart. I actually, I think it's in my tantrum video, my tantrum course. I have a mini tantrum course. And I say how to grocery shop with a toddler. They sit in that cart and they do not come out of that cart. They also do not help with groceries. Because once you give them one thing like Kleenex, you can put that in there. Then they'll scream because you won't hand over the eggs. See, it can't be inconsistent. They don't understand the difference between a non-breakable and a breakable. So they don't need to help out. Why do they need to help out at the grocery store? I don't understand that. But anyway, yeah, what I did with my kids, though, is they sat up in that shopping cart every single time. They never got out of that. They were like 16 years old and they were still smashed in there. I just thought there's no way they're going to get out of that thing. But what I did was I had a little goodie bag. I had the shopping cart goodie bag, and they only got that when they sat in the shopping cart. So they were quite happy to get in there. And every single day, whenever we went shopping, It had different stuff in there. I had some little toys from the dollar store, or whatever. I had a whole bag full of stuff. I'd just grab a handful. And then I had snacks and a drink. And they would sit there, and it just opened up at the top like that. So it sat beautifully in their lap. And then they'd have all this new stuff to look at. They loved it. It was great. Plus they're at eye level, so we'd chat, and it was a real bonding thing, right? So yeah. Set them up for success. That's a really good example of that. By the way, as soon as they got out of the shopping cart and we got back in the car, I took the goodie bag away. They never argued because they understood they only get that in the shopping cart. That was their shopping cart goodie bag. So yeah, set yourself up for success. Never let them loose. Once you do that once, it's hard to contain the tiger again after that. Parents want to be able to, well, sometimes I'm okay with that. Well, it's a mixed message. You got to decide, do you want them running around the store causing havoc or not? So you got to make that decision. They do not need to get out of the store and help you get groceries. I think that's, why do they need to do that? And then you get upset when they're having a bad day and they're throwing everything all over the place because you've taught them that they're allowed to get out and touch stuff. Yeah, 4 years old can help. Yeah, at 4. We're talking about 2 and maybe 3. But yeah, 4 years old. But my kids they were in that shopping cart because they knew they'd get the goodie bag, you see. So yeah. Yeah, in New Zealand, we have the little kid trolleys in the supermarket. They can push. That's great if it works. But if you want to get all the grocery shopping done, they're going to get in the way. They're going to, because in Australia, they had those too. My kids got those, probably they were 4, probably by the time I let them out. And they were really easy kids anyway. But yeah, then I let them have it. But they were in the way, and those big poles on top of those things are always hitting me in the head. And yeah, because if they're good, then that's great. But if they're going to wreak havoc, and I've actually seen them ram people with those things too. So you got to monitor, you got to know what kind of kid you got. Have you got a kid who's going to politely go along behind you with that little one, or are they going to start ramming shelves and wreaking havoc? So you got to decide. Exactly. Whatever works for each parent and each child. Exactly. So you got to decide, is that something you want to do? It's extra work for you for sure. Is that something you want to do and it's a lovely experience, or is it going to be hell? You got to decide what you and your child is going to work best with you. Because that's not a black and white issue. That's, If 2-year-old son hits and I say we don't do that, he says, look at the birds or whatever. Well, why are you just saying don't do that? I would just every time he hits, I would take a toy away. You have to use consistent corrective actions. You're using the mini therapy sessions. You're discussing it with him. He doesn't care what you're saying. He's not listening to you. But you take action, he'll learn. So toddlers are all about consistent corrective actions under the age of 3. If they're 3 and over, you can use my behavior board. That's when they can stop and think, and they can reason. So that's when you start using the behavior board. Under that, no, it's consistent corrective actions. If he hits, you say no, and you remove him from the fun, remove the fun from him, just for a minute or 2, whatever. He'll eventually learn. Not the first time, though. Do we let them cry when we take things away? Oh, that's a big part of it. Yes, very important. Let them process not getting their own way all the time. So let's say they hit and then you take that toy away. That's a wonderful lesson for them to learn. You want them to get upset and you want them to learn. That's a good lesson to learn. Yep. The sooner you teach them that, the sooner you teach them accountability and kindness, the easier your life will be and the easier their life will be too. How do you prepare a 4-year-old for a new baby sibling? Well, let me ask you this. Let's say your husband was going to bring another woman into the house. How would you prepare for that? You couldn't. There is no preparation for such a life-altering event. There just isn't. You can get them his own little baby or get them there, help them out. But still, how could they possibly really grasp how much life's going to change? My son was 5 when his sister was born. And it didn't really change his life very much. He was a very easy baby. And we just kind of I remember when he was a baby, you never wake up that first child. When you've got another kid, you got to get to school. I had to get him to school every day. So she'd be fast asleep and I'd rip her up, wake her up. It's just that she just sort of fit right into his world. So it didn't seem to make a lot of difference. But yeah, we were on the go a lot. But yeah, they can't, I don't even think, yeah, I mean, he didn't really interact with her a lot until she was probably 2 or 3. Didn't change his life much. 2-year-old won't sleep in her own bed. I'm actually, I don't even want to say it again. I keep talking about that bedtime battles course, don't I? Anyway, yeah. So anyway, here's how you do bedtime. You say now 2 years old, they're not in a cot anymore. Usually they're kind of out of the crib. I mean, they're kind of out of the crib. I raised my kids in Australia, so all my baby stuff is still Australian. Anyway, they're kind of out of the crib at that point. So every time they get out of bed, you walk them back to bed and you just put them back in bed, basically. At 2, that's kind of all you can do. Just keep putting them back in bed, putting them back in bed. You don't look at them or talk to them, though. You just put them back in bed quietly, calmly, and slowly. Put them back in bed. You might have to do it 50 to 100 times in the first night. Then they usually learn. Also, if they're scared in bed or whatever, get the Galaxy lights or a sound machine. There's this sound machine, my clients use it sometimes, and that thing is so freaking loud, it's unbelievable. But kids love it. It sounds like a really loud heartbeat or whooshing kind of sound. You know, one of those. Oh, geez, it's loud. But yeah, get something like that. See if it helps. Might be soothing. But it's the talking that you keep getting in trouble with. Like, okay, she's still sleeping in a cot. Well, how is she not staying in her bed? Is she climbing out of her cot? I don't understand that. The first time people say, when should we change them from a cot or a crib to a bed? I say the first time they flop out like a fish and they hit the ground. That's when I thought, okay, that's it. And I dismantled the crib and I just put the crib mattress there and then put pillows around it. So, yeah. It's very traumatic when they hit the floor. Boy, they scream, climb out and, oh, geez. Oh, it's awful. Okay, do you suggest a baby gate? No, 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 no. Do you suggest a baby gate on your toddler's door to keep them in their room, or is that mean? In some situations, I will. Depends on the child, but generally, no. You want them to learn to stay in bed. But 2 is awfully young, but still, I don't know why I don't like it. I kind of like them to be able to get up. Yeah. Yeah, don't ask me to elaborate on that one because I don't have a great answer for that. I wish I did, but I don't. I just don't like it. Sometimes they just go, no, I don't like that, but I don't always know why. Hello there. I was just reviewing, on YouTube. I was just reviewing 13 years of your videos. Thank you so much. I've never really been consistent on YouTube. I'm getting better at it these days. 13 years. God. Oh, that's a long time. Do you know why? I used to have a lot of blogs, like articles that I wrote on my website. And one day, a few years ago, I was going through it and I went back to the old ones and I had written something, because I've been in business for so long now, and I'd written something like this. Well, you know, kids, they're on that newfangled Facebook thing. I thought delete. I deleted all my blogs. I thought that was so funny. Oh, this newfangled Facebook thing. Yeah, dating myself or what? Okay, how do you get a 2-year-old to stop biting? I have a mini course on that, toddlers who hit, bite, etc. It's a really good course it just goes through it all. But they're about consistent corrective actions, and they're not about words. And a lot of parents want to say stuff like this. Well, you know what hurts me when you do that? You shouldn't do that. You should be a nice little boy or nice little girl. They are not listening to you. That's the therapy session talk. It just doesn't work with toddlers at all. I don't do that with older kids either. I just don't do the therapy session stuff. They already know. I don't go on about it. I don't ignore anybody. I just, whatever pops up, everything scrolls. Okay. How do I get a toddler to listen when I ask them to come to me in a public place? What's a toddler doing walking around? Well, I guess they can be in a play center or something. Yeah, if they don't listen, I would go and get them and snap them into a harness and say, you didn't listen to me, so this is what happens. So yeah, because listening, when you need them to listen to you, to come to you, that's a safety issue. You don't want them to be runners. I just lost a whole bunch of my, so I just lost something. Anyway, never mind. I have several screens going here. One of my screens just blacked out. And that was the one I had all my notes on. You know, when I talk about the 5 top toddler tips, 5 top toddler tips. What about toddlers who refuse to eat meals? Toddlers are usually grazers. They're not meal eaters. I'm a grazer. I always was. I don't like meals. I'd rather graze all day long. So, but yeah, generally, if you want them to learn how to eat meals, because that's how families operate, right? We don't graze all day. So, but what I did with my kids, I think, which one of my kids? I can't remember which. Anyway, one of them was more of a grazer. So what I did was they had snacks, and they only had like light snacks. They could only have something really light for a snack, like maybe some fruit or something, so that when they did come to the dinner table, they would actually eat something. But yeah, watch the snacks. Don't make them anything fatty or like fast food. I was into health food. So yeah, nothing fatty or sugary for snacks. And plus, if they know, they tend to not eat meals very well if they know there's ice cream waiting for them in the freezer. Whereas I never had anything like that. We had no junk food in the house. So they knew that if they didn't eat their broccoli, there was no ice cream waiting for them. They may as well eat the broccoli, right? So if their choice is only healthy food, they tend to only eat healthy food because they didn't have a choice. And I did used to make a lot of cookies and breads and all that, but I shoved a whole bunch of healthy stuff in. I hid spinach, wheat germ, all sorts of seeds and everything. I hid all that stuff in everything. I could mash up anything and hide it in a cookie, a cake. My kids were so confused when they'd go to friends' houses. They couldn't figure out why everything tasted so different. Yeah. Oh, well. Okay, yep, safety first for sure. I'd tie mine to the stroller as punishment for a half hour. That's what I would do. Absolutely. What about a toddler that prefers one parent, their dad? Yeah, they go back and forth. Don't worry about it. They love you both the same. I'll bet when that kid is 6, they probably want you, though, right? Maybe dad's just the fun one right now. They go back and forth. But what if I want them to walk with me? I never lose sight, but he runs knowing he shouldn't. Well, then tie him up. Have him on a restraint. Absolutely. That's safety. He has to earn his freedom by proving he's not going to run away from you. Don't be afraid of being a leader. This is love. This is they once they respect you, that none of this stuff is an issue. Once you've set yourself up as a leader, they don't argue with you. They just understand. Because you also want to mix it with a lot of fun. You know, I was the real fun, goofy mom, for sure. I was in that case. But if they ever acted out, I got real quiet real fast. And I'd say, I didn't like that. Here's what we're going to do. So then I hardly ever had to do that anyway. But yeah, you want to be fun. 3-year-old who likes to scream when he doesn't get his way, let him go. Let him have at it. So he screams when he doesn't get his way. So that's attitude. You got to let him voice that. He doesn't get his own way. He screams when he doesn't get his own way. Well, he's 3. Generally, that stops right around 3 because they realize the screaming. It sort of says to me that he knows if he does it enough that you have rewarded that. You must have given in the past. If they just scream when they don't get their own way at 3, it's because you've probably given in before, because they tend to only do what works or what's been rewarded in the past. So make sure that never works, ever, 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 ever. Even if he screams and then you say, if you calm down, you'll get that. That is rewarding it. He just won. So yeah, make sure they never get, if they've screamed for something, make sure they never get that for the rest of that day or whatever at all. Oh, I can't remember the situation. I was trying to remember this the other day. And I don't know why I would have had a say in this. I have no idea. Anyway, some kid was acting out, and the mother said, well, if you don't smarten up, you won't get any ice cream. Something like that. I was with I don't know, I was there. I don't know what happened. This is years and years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. And the mother said, if you don't smarten up, you won't get any ice cream. So sure enough, the kid was good for a split second just to get ice cream, finished the ice cream, then went right back to acting out. And the mother said, what do you do? Well, I never tell friends how to parent, right? So I only talk about it in my business. And I wasn't doing this at the time anyway. But I thought, wow, does that kid ever know how to work his mom? So he'd screamed. I would have said, if you scream again, you'll get no ice cream. And then No, I wouldn't have just said that with that kid. What would I have done? Which I can't think of the situation because I was thinking, how obvious was it? I knew exactly what she should have done, but she went against it. So I can't remember what it was. It's driving me nuts now. It was such a good lesson, but I can't remember it now. Anyway, she gave in. He did scream and she gave in. What to do if they go limp? Oh, well, pick them up, get them where you need to get them. I said, I feel like you're not getting my messages. Well, I see some of them. I'm sure. I just saw that one. You see, it scrolls. Now, I'm seeing your questions, but all you're doing is complaining about me ignoring you. Maybe if you ask the question, it might pop up. It's just they scroll fat. They scroll and then they freeze. They scroll and they freeze. I read them when they freeze. Okay, sharing for an only child, 2 years old. You can't teach a 2-year-old how to share. They don't really understand empathy or other people want things too until they're about 3.5. So sharing's like impossible to to actually want to share. So yeah, can't really teach that. You just make sure that each kid has their own toy. But I'll tell you, yeah, they sort of seem to learn how to share because they don't want to get hit. So if they know that if they don't share, they might get hit, that's not really sharing. That's just avoiding getting hit by another kid, right? So it kind of looks like some of them know how to share, but some kids are just easier going too. But yeah, the true sense of sharing, they don't really get because they don't have empathy towards other people yet because they just don't have it in them. I wasn't very good at sharing when I was a kid because I have a brother, but he's like 16 years older. So it was me and 3 adults in the house. So I didn't ever have to share, but I didn't mind sharing my toys so long as they were careful with them. I'm very fussy about everything. Even when I was a kid, everything was pristine. It was all organized and I liked everything aligned. And then other friends would come over and wreck everything. That bothered me. So I wasn't good at sharing unless they were also respectful and they would look after it. I was thrilled to share if they weren't going to wreck all my toys. Okay. Bedwetting in 5 years old after being trained. Usually at 5 years old, they know that it's more of a medical thing. Now, I'm not a pediatrician, but often it's that stop-start exercise you've got to do with them. So have them stop and start. It's usually boys that I've talked to. It's usually been boys. But anyway, stop and start when they're peeing and they learn how to develop their bladder muscles better. That's what I've been told. But yeah, if you're really concerned, go to a doctor, eliminate any medical issues, and then treat it. But is he doing it is he angry and then he pees that? Like, is it on purpose, do you think? Also, make sure they don't have anything to drink 90 minutes before bedtime. And then also some kids have really tiny bladders. They just can't collect a lot throughout the night. So I would suggest maybe pick them up at 1 in the morning and just bring them into the toilet and stand there holding them half asleep, both of you, and have them pee then. You do that by putting his hand in warm water, run the water, whatever, and have him pee. He might not even wake up. But yeah, so he might just have a really tiny bladder or a lack of control. It might just be something like that, right? And also, if you've had my potty training class, I have a potty, how you have a potty party. Anyway, you never ever shame a child for wetting a bed or wetting the floor and you clean it up. Don't ever ask a kid to clean up after themselves. There's just something about that. It's a bodily function and it goes into the humiliation department. So yeah, never ask a child to clean up after themselves. Oh, this 2-year-old, he has no fear of being hit, but he hit a little boy over a toy and grabs toys. Okay, well then every time he grabs a toy, I would take it away and give it to the other child. Say one word, no. And you got to be quick though. He's got to be able to associate that no with what just happened. So you're on top of this. If you have a child who's doing something naughty like that, you just got to be on the ball. You got to be on top of it. When you have friends over and that, say, look, I'm just training my kid right now. I got to watch him like a hawk. And as soon as he grabs the toy, you say no, and you hand it back to the other kid, and then restrain your child from grabbing it again. They will eventually learn. They're not learning because they want to share. They're learning because they know they don't have a choice. There's a difference. Oh, I have to get going. It's been over an hour now. Anyway, I have to get going. Thanks so much for joining me. If you go on the link above, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok right now. I'll get other things going, but that's enough right now. But yeah, and I also film these on YouTube. So all of my lives are saved on YouTube. And anyway, thanks so much for joining me. And I'll be back again sometime tomorrow. I only have Tuesday nights and Saturday mornings regularly scheduled for these lives. Every other day, I just turn up when I've got time. So thanks so much, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Bye now.